Take up one idea. Make that one idea your life. Think of it, dream of it, and live on that idea. Let the brain, muscles, nerves, every part of your body be full of that idea and just leave every other idea alone. And this is the way to success. A famous quote by Swami Vivekananda. Hello, my name is Malati, and this is my show titled The Impressive Empress. Here, I talk to women leaders, women who have had a humble beginning and have forged their way to leadership, a position to which they have been elevated thanks to their selfless efforts at making a positive difference to the world. The work of navigating the human mind and finding solutions for individuals battling mental, social, and emotional afflictions is at best challenging and rewarding, and at worst daunting. Our today's guest, Dr. Nirada Chandramohan, a clinical psychologist with more than 30 years of experience, chose to deal precisely with the rehabilitation of special needs children with multiple disabilities so they can have not only a good life but a self sustaining life. She's worked with enormous patience, energy, and single mindedness backed by spiritual strength, which she believes helped her cross various barriers and reach higher levels professionally. Let's now get to know what makes Nirada the impressive empress. Good afternoon, Nirada ma'am. I'm so happy to have you here on this show titled The Impressive Empress. I look forward to hearing a lot about how you became the director of NIEPD and your journey and all the struggles that you had to go through. How did you face them? What were the challenges? And how are you smiling today? Welcome to the show.
It's really fortunate to be on this talk with you. Definitely, I will share my experiences, challenges, and successes in my journey from the time I took up this profession. Okay, I should start from why did I ever choose this profession? We plan a career during a graduation and post graduation, isn't it? So during graduation, my intention was to go in for medicine, do MBBS. But the circumstances at our home was not favorable. So immediately I switched over to bachelor in arts with subjects psychology, English literature, and philosophy. That's a 3-year course, and I have completed it. And then I had to do my PG in psychology, aiming to do clinical psychology. And this clinical psychology was offered only in two institutes at that time, that is in 1980s. That is one is NIMHANS, that is National Institute for of Mental Health. So I aimed for that and took psychology and passed out my post graduation. But then in the meantime, being in India, it is necessary that the parents want their daughters to get married. I got married with the condition that my husband will allow me for higher studies. And after my sons were born and they were little old to take care of themselves, I got the opportunity to do MPhil in clinical psychology at Bangalore. It's a 2 years residential program. And when I have to go there, all the family members did cooperate, including my children and my husband. And my parents were staying very nearby, and they were able to take care of my children and all that. My husband also supported well. By God's grace, I completed this MPhil clinical psychology and immediately took up a job as clinical psychologist in a NGO called THPI, Thakur Hariprasad Institute. And there it is an institute of international repute which caters to the rehabilitation services of children with intellectual disabilities and associated conditions. And there I worked in different levels, that is, starting from lecturer to additional professor in clinical psychology, wherein we conduct a lot of assessments to see the current level of functioning of children with intellectual disabilities and their IQ, intellectual quotient, and to diagnose where exactly they fall. This is not to label them that they are mild intellectual disabilities or moderate or severe and all that. It is only to gauge where we could take these children to which level, and to also explain to the parents that your child is capable of doing this. So it helps in parental awareness, as well as gearing the parents to train the child forward and having an attainable goal. And I worked in a school where there were many children, and then I've seen children with a lot of challenges, behavior challenges, like running about, not able to sit in a place, spitting, tearing, and lots of there's a number of behavior problems. And gradually, in collaboration with the parents, in collaboration with the special teachers, we could draw a behavioral management program and implement very systematically and bring out positive changes. I did play a lot of pivotal role in that, especially in changing the perspective of parents. Most parents of intellectual disabilities, they come with what you call as, placing their children at a lower pedestal. That is, they're not able to do this, they're not able to even sit, they're not able to take care of themselves, they're not able to speak up, and all that. Always don'ts only come from the parents. So we demonstrate to the parents, showing that they are capable of so many positive things, which the parents fail to notice and appreciate them. So this is an important, perspective that we deal with the parents. And at the initial stage, they feel that it is the therapist who have to take care of everything. So we will deal with the child, say, about 45 minutes, and then drop goals, achieve goals, then step up the goals, upgrade the skills, and all that. So during this process, parents have really change perspectives, that it is not only the therapist, it is parents also should play a enabling or a proactive role in bringing positive changes in them. That is what I was able to bring changes in them. I will never hurt the parents. I will place myself in parents shoes and then think about them. Then when I started working with the children initially and bring about changes, then the parents gradually come towards me. And we, in collaboration, work towards the child. What are the home goals they have to take in and work on it? And what are the challenges they face? What are the positive changes that they've noticed? All have proper documentation. This documentation helps us in publishing papers, in doing research, and all that. So this is one aspect of my work wherein I work towards assessment, drawing a behavioral program, or called as ITP, Individual Training Program, for all children who are visitors or whoever are in the class and all that. So we, as a triangulation, that is parents, teachers, and myself, we work with the children and bring about changes. It is not an overnight work. It takes days, months, and sometimes years also to bring small changes. But there is a hope. There is always there will be a change if we work with the children honestly. Okay, that is one aspect of my assessment, rehabilitation of persons with intellectual disabilities. They may be children with multiple disabilities, like intellectual disabilities and autism. So we have to keep all this into consideration and draw the educational plan or rehabilitation plan and implement those step by step. And the second aspect of my work, I can say, or my duty is, like, as a teaching faculty. I impart education or impart teaching to those who do diploma in special education, or B.Ed in special education, M.Ed in special education, MPhil in clinical psychology. So depending upon the syllabus that each course have, and they do have a subject called psychology, and we teach those lessons, so those chapters, to them with hands-on training or showing practical exposure. For example, if they have to learn on intellectual assessment, so we teach them what are all the tools that are available to assess a particular child, and we show the demonstration. How do we have to look into the behavioral perspective, their behaviors, their performance, and then as calculate the mental age, and from mental age we can calculate the IQ by applying the formula mental age divided by chronological age into 100. So we get the intellectual quotient. And intellectual quotient is those who are below 70, having IQ below 70, they are considered as intellectual disabled. And there are categories in that depending upon the performance and the IQ. That is, we have mild intellectual disability, moderate intellectual disability, then severe intellectual disability, and the profound intellectual disability. So when you categorize them, those with severe or profound, they need what is called as high support. That is, they need support for their day-to-day activities. That is called as activities of daily living. Whereas children with mild and moderate can do certain reading, writing, arithmetic, they can comprehend, speak few words, communicate, and all that. So, this is only to know the level of that. And further, they can be taught various skills for them until they gain some economic independence. We have trainees who have been trained in printing, who have been trained in horticulture, who have been trained in bakery and all that. According to the training, they have been placed in the community, and they start earning also. For example, like 3,000 rupees per month, and then some have worked for 2,500, and some who are placed in higher industries like pharmaceutical industries and all, they are also paid very well, like rupees 3,000 per month and all. So we have what is called as placement officers who would go and see how is their production, and then how are they are interacting with their co-employer employees and all that. And we have heard a lot of success stories that a person earlier who has been thought as a burden to the society, now after so much of training, has changed into a contributory person or a helpful person to the society and family. So this is the a change in perspective we brought in through years of training. This is being did, and I worked in this NGO, and that is non-government organization, for 16 years. Later on, I had gone into the government service as assistant professor for persons with disabilities, and I had worked for Bhopal for 4.5 years. That is a central government organization where they prioritize a HRD program, that is Human Resource Development Program, and also services. It is the same type of work over there also, teaching, research, publication, assessment of children with persons with disabilities and all that. And then later on, I had a opportunity for a higher post at Chennai. That post was, pardon, that post was associate professor in clinical psychology at in Tamil Nadu. So I got selected there and I came here. By virtue of being senior and highly qualified, I was asked to apply for the post of director. That was in the year 2006. I got selected as a director in 2008, and since then it is a new venture because the building has not been constructed. It is we had lot of recruitments, we had lot of clients coming in and all that. So later we constructed a building uh, on 12,000 and odd square meters. That is, we have provision for assessment of all the disciplines, like for physiotherapy, occupational therapy, medical, clinical psychology, speech and language, special education. All the discipline departments have to be established, both for services as well as for HRD. We constructed a barrier-free environment, a building costing about say 50 crores project and all that, for which I have received a national award for creating barrier free environment. Okay, that was in the year 2012 I got this award. And in 2011 I have received another award for creating accessible website. See, most of the websites are accessible only to the educated. But for persons with intellectual disability or multiple disabilities or cerebral palsy or deaf blind, we have all intellectuals in this spectrum also who would like to know what is available across the world, the various courses for themselves, or various rehabilitation institutions, various institutions which manufacture prosthetic and orthotic equipments based upon the needs of the clients and all that. So, in order to know what is going across the world, the only source is the internet. So, how this internet or websites can be accessible for this differently able was being designed by us, and for that also I received a national award in 2011. So then we had, as a director, we had a lot of meetings, developments, and then women empowerment, creating a lot of projects, and then after doing a lot of, nationwide awareness program, and then adept distribution program. That is, these persons, differently abled persons, will require what is called as assistive devices or assistive technologies. So this and all awareness is necessary, wherein we create awareness nationwide in different places in collaboration with various NGOs, in various national institutes, various other sectors like Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, Ministry of Child, Women and Child Development. Like that, we collaborate with various ministries and launch programs that has been sanctioned by the council. So these are the various activities which we've been doing till date. Till date, even now we do a lot of publications, develop awareness materials in vernacular languages so that it can be distributed to various population. And as you know, India is a diverse country, and also we and with lot of diverse languages and cultures and all that. So we have to cater according to those needs and distribute awareness materials in printed form or in or in oral form, and create awareness in them. There'll be many people who are hesitant to use certain modern equipments and all. So we teach them, sit with them and teach with them until they are user friendly to this latest gadgets, technological devices.
Wonderful work. I mean, from where you started to where you have reached, it's an amazing story that you have shared. I would like to understand how it all began. What motivated you to study psychology, to study clinical psychology, and start working with the disability?
When I was in my post graduation, that is during my MA, we were five friends who were just discussing about a future. Where would we branch out like? One of my friends said she would be a trainer for the IAS. We had a particular unit in our department to coach aspirants of students aiming for IAS, that is Indian Administrative Services. So in that, who have chosen subject as psychology, we can train them, teach them, and all them for appearing both preliminary as well as main examinations. Okay, she said she would choose that. One said she would go for the banking. She would like to go with it. The other said she would go to the corporate and train the, corporate officials and all that. So I was wondering, like everybody are choosing the creamy ones. Why shouldn't I take the unfortunate ones, like the, say for example, who are say orphans or who are rag pickers, disability and all that, because they are the ones who are not cared at all, who have been not taken, taken care at all, even by the ministry or even by the people or parents. So I chose that I should deal with rehabilitate children. And then I made searches during my graduation itself. Post graduation, what would I do? Then what are the aspects, prospects for venturing out in a better career? So at that time, I did come to know about this NIMHANS. So I was aiming for that to go into NIMHANS. It's a world reputed organization and then I was striving for that. Luckily, I applied for it. Unfortunately, the marriage came, but my husband was very supportive. When I got the opportunity in '87, I completed in '80, and I got the admission in '87. I was selected then in '87. In this 7 years, I played a important role to my children as mother because I cared them very well. I enjoyed my mothering, my motherhood and all that. And later on, when I got this opportunity, I asked my sons, should I go? They said, okay, you can go and all that. So it was very nice that they had such an understanding then itself. Then, of course, with a little of guilt.
I would like to ask you why was it important for you to get the support of the family and how important was it?
See, being a married woman, our role is major to take care of our children and our husband, isn't it? And they were so young. My eldest son was around, say, 4 years, and the younger one was 3 years. So at that time, they expect mother to be there to take care of their studies, to take care of them, and all that. And then but luckily by God's grace my parents were there. They supported me very well. They said they would take care of children and all that, and Bangalore is not very far. It's just only say an hour's journey by flight, and then overnight journey by train. So and the children also said they I mean gave me permission, I can say. And then after that my husband also promised that he would take care of the children and all that. So that was one. It was important. No, actually, as mother, taking care of the children and their future was important. But at the same time, in my mind, my career also is important, or my unfinished, say, goal in my life that I have to do clinical psychology was another one that was there. But since they are young, it is a time that I can go, I thought, because children's younger, during that age, no, it's easy to take care of them by others also. If it's too young or too old, they may be having certain issues, but that age I thought was appropriate time for me to go and all that. And clinical psychology, doing clinical psychology is very important. You get a vast experience in demands. That experience nowhere you can get. So I thought, since I got this opportunity, I must go. And then I may not, opportunity don't strike often. So once I get, I have to utilize it. And I could balance it very well between my say studies as well as home. Every once a month I used to come, that is every second Saturday, Sunday for our holidays for us. So I used to just fly back or come in train, and then be at home. And sometimes there was days wherein I straight went from railway station to the school for parents meet and all that for my children. And my husband used to come, then pick me up, and then go to the school for parents meet, then discuss about their development, academic, and all that, how they're doing and all that. Fortunately, they were doing very well. And my parents' side, my younger sister, my younger brothers, all supported them in academics and all that. So that was very nice. And my husband, as usual, he was very good, supportive, and then gave me all the help during these 2 years. Not only during these 2 years, throughout my all my my employment days and all that, days, years, months and all that, he was very very cooperative. So that is what I felt, because of them I was able to do.
Outstanding. I mean, extraordinary work, I should say. The commitment that you had
Mm,
shown to
mm,
becoming what you wanted to become. That steadfastness, really appreciated, ma'am.
mm.
And but the question of why clinical psychology and why psychology for the disabled, could you please give me a couple of points on that? Were you fascinated by somebody else? Did you have a role model?
Malti, when I was in Immense, no, our professor was there. His name Professor G. Prabhu. He was my role model. Though he was a very, very tough person, but we have lot of things to learn from him. So he was the one who had written lot of articles and research, published research papers for families of the intellectual disabilities and all that. Now it is called intellectual disability. Earlier it is called as mental retarded and all that. Those type of terms. It's slightly derogatory. So now because a lot of technology and a lot of humanism and all that, it's now called intellectual disability. And the experience that you get in NIMHANS is fabulous. It's just fantastic. I had the stamina to work 18 hours in wards, as well as in assessment clinics and all that. So much was the stamina. I went with the purpose that I have to learn as much, grab all the knowledge as much pertaining to the mentally ill, as well as to the parents, to the intellectual disabilities, associated conditions, and all that. I would always keep my mind open to grab as much of knowledge, as much of experience, and all that. So it is an experience which cannot be told in words, especially at NIMHANS. We get very good exposure, lot of library to read, and to work with clients with the supervision of our teaching faculty and all that. It's just marvelous. That was the thing that made me stay for 2 years in spite of tough, very tough, what you could say, syllabus, working conditions, and all that. Everything, that is, I mean, we had to go to the wards by 8 o'clock and work till 8, 9 o'clock in the night and all that. That was the working structure. And after that, after a break, then go to the library, do references, submit the assignments, and so much it was writing reports and all that. It kept you tight. That is what is one way. That is all the 6 days, we can say. We were very, very busy from 8 to night 9, 11 o'clock and all that. Sunday was the one day relaxing for us, but it was very well. I enjoyed my 2 year stay at Nimans.
Amazing.
Clinical psychology is the only subject which teaches you how to analyze the parents' perspective, their dynamics, how they think, and all that, and the therapeutic interventions they have. Say there is a family pathology. Say the husband wife don't get together, they have marital discord and all that. So how we can intervene and give them marital therapy, family therapy, sibling therapy, various types of therapies are being taught according to the conditions, and we have live cases, with all these different problems and dealing with them, talking to them, and then giving them solutions, after reading through literature, after our faculty teaching them and all that. It gives immense experience, and then there are different kinds of patients with say depression, schizophrenia, manic depressive psychosis, phobia. Then we have children with autism, children with hyperkinesis, ADHD, and all that. We have children with scholastic backwardness, and also so many variety of cases, and it's only that you have to grab and then do with them and assess them, study them, analyze them, find the psychopathology, what exactly, where exactly is the problem, and then give intervention. So it is not that yeah, you can either work only one or two cases and then go. No, nobody is going to really charge you, because it's an MPhil program. You have to show your own interest and grab as much as possible, the experience. And then the more you see variety of cases, the more experienced you are. And after this 2 years of training, giving various teaching, learning various therapeutic interventions, individual intervention, group intervention, after this 2 years, any case you can handle. You get so much of experience that you can handle any case, be it alcoholic or substance abuse disorder, or say phobia, or children with say enuresis, or feeding disorders. Any case you can deal it. So such is the competence that you come out after doing this MPhil program.
I can feel the passion in your voice even today, even though you have formally retired, if I may say that. You still carry that passion. It's like as if you've just graduated and you're starting your work. So
Thanks.
thank you for being so caring, and you have went on to receive the such national awards. Outstanding, outstanding work, ma'am. But when you mentioned that you had to work sometimes for 18 hours a day, and Isn't that a challenge for a woman? And how did you
Uh, uh,
manage that?
that, it was a student's life. Almost you are doing research, like, an MPhil program. And see, I went with the purpose that I have to learn and complete it within 2 years. Not again stay back and read or become a consultant or research consultant and all. So my time is limited. Only 2 years I have to do my maximum, catch the maximum, take as much as possible. And I never felt tired. That is God's gift. I can think that not one day I would say that I'm tired, my legs are paining, or my hands are paining, and all. No, that 18 hours or plus, I can say afterwards I used to do go to the library and all that. No, would give me a lot of stamina for me to do it, and then I have to enjoy that work. And then see, I always think that whenever you do any work with the joy, it is encouraging, and it gives you what you say is a you know uh, multiple ways of or multiple times of energy for you to do further. I always felt that, even I tell my students also, don't ever think dealing with any difficult client is difficult. It is a challenge. You have to work with it and see the best what you can do, and enjoy how you can really take out some information from him. Which are the ways that you can elicit information from clients and all that. Take it in a positive way. Even if he is not responding, make him some alterations, or sing a song for him sometime, or try to joke for some time. Let the humor come in. Let him have some, different ways of thought, alternatives, and then come back to the work like that. And then, so this way, we should have the right attitude, that is always there. And the urge to learn will always facilitate you to give more energy and more work more in multifold manner.
Wonderful, wonderful. Can you please talk about your project, the barrier free mobility?
See, we all know, no, the flooring is very important, isn't it? So flooring, should not be very smooth and all that. It should have anti-skid flooring, because when you use a wheelchair or a walking stick and all, it should not give away. It should really give you a balance, a sense of equilibrium and all that. So you should choose that type of tiles, tiles you have to choose. And then this is done after a lot of, experiments, trials and all that, before placing it permanently. When they arrange this particular tiles, we pour water and ask some of our women to run on it, see whether if they slip or not. And then we have a particular tiles, which is having some what say loops on it, which will tell you the direction, whether to go ahead or to take left direction or right direction or not. So in some of the picture, I'll just post it sometime. You can just see they are called as tiles, glazer tiles, which gives you direction to move on, especially for persons with blindness or deaf blind and all that, or partially blind and all that. And similarly, you have what is called as ramps. Ramps are very important. So that is there's a particular gradient in that, which angle you have to usually it is 45 to 60 per degree level they take it. And you have a particular scientific measurement for that. For every 11 centimeters or something, you have 1 feet to be raised, like that. You have some, I'll just look onto the scientific calculations and let you know. That is very important. It is scientifically based. The ramps are not too steep or not too low and all that. You have a gradually, increasing the height of the building. And then we have what is called as to move through the corridors. Many people may not know. So we have certain icons, or say which we call, posters, like for having to go towards the toilet. They have a direction, and to direction to go it, both, verbal as well as tactile. Tactile is written in braille for them to follow on the railings. And then reach to the particular target, whether it is toilet or whether to the director's room or to the department of special education and all that you have. And then afterwards, you have railings, for orthopedic handicapped, who have hemiplegia or hemiparesis and all that, to hold the bars on the sideways to the hip level. They can hold and walk, holding that railing itself to a whichever place. The whole building consists of this glazed tiles, and then it has got directional tiles, anti-skid flooring, then it has got lift, which alignment is okay, braille to go whichever floor they want, and you have audio messages also, which floor you are and which floor you they need to press and all that. There is a braille and all that. And everywhere there are hand railings for them to hold. Even inside the lift you have railings to hold, because there is slight jerk now whenever it starts or whenever it comes to that particular floor, right, minute jerk. Even that, to take care of them, they can hold the railings. And there are a lot of icons on the top of the wall for them to read, like whether which department it is, special education, speech and language department, there's a particular sign for that. Clinical psychologist, there's a particular sign. So through these signs and all that, they can move around.
This is really extra special work that you have done, and definitely deserves an award. For normal people, we just move around casually and never pay attention to the existence or non-existence of such railings or ramps, or unless we reach a situation where such things are required, we hardly ever notice them. So, how did you conceive of this idea? How did you get into doing all of these things? Exactly what went through your mind when you started working on this project?
Yeah, about this, when this project came in, that is construction of the building and all that, we have what is called a supervision committee, internal committee for construction and all that. And in our ministry, when we do this accessibility is very, very important feature, because we have to consider persons with disability at par with normals. So how can they get empowered? If they have to reach to library, there should be some accessibility for them to go on their own. So we all thought in this way, and we googled a lot, regarding this barrier free features and all that. We got a lot of literature from that, and we got literature from the CPWD people also, and then we had to guide them. They talk about this green building and all that. So how greener can our buildings be? We thought in that way, and we have a committee for that, and we all used to discuss once a week how we can make this a unique building which can help all persons with disabilities to have access into the building. So it's a joint effort. And then we always thought that, when we did accessibility of website, why not for the building, so that they can move around. We have lot of, a sensory fields and all that for them to feel. And then we have, I think we cannot tell in words, we wanted them to be in everything. Even if they have to go to the playground, they have to go on their own. And then even in interval, we have lunch breaks, tea breaks and all that. Even that time, it should be a sort of, educative for them. So when they go into the park, they have different sensory park. That is, some area which is having small pebbles, some area which has got, grass, some area it is as smooth as cotton, like that. Different areas have been embarked, I mean, have been marked for this, for them to have this tactile sensation in the feet, I mean, and the soul is sole part of the feet, so that gives them lot of stimulation towards the brain. That we have what is called as reflexology. In the paper called reflexology, how are pebbles, how are when we walk on the pebbles, or when we walk on the this thing grass, or when we walk on hay and all that, how it stimulates and then encourages the various nerves that is leading towards the brain, can be stimulative for them in their motor and language and other all spheres of development. We really read through that literature, and we thought we have to bring it in practical way for children to experience those, and they've been experience enjoying and all that. And all children get this exposure in their school time, at one point or the other.
What was the biggest challenge, or was there any setback when you went about this project or in any other project?
No, there have not been any setbacks as such, but when we started the project, the ministry was very cooperative. We had series of meetings. The CPW was extremely cooperative team. They liked the way how we have been dealing, and they were very prompt. And they gave the building as promised and all. So only thing challenges we had is it had to be opened. The building have to be inaugurated. So in our system, it is like that the ministers have to be there, and if the ministers are there, then only the secretary, joint secretaries all come, so that, and getting the dates for this inauguration was little bit difficult. It took about 6 to 8 months for me to get a date from both the ministers, that is cabinet minister as well as the home minister and all that, no, to get a date for inauguration. That was slightly a bit, the building was ready and we are not able to enter into it because of not being inaugurated. So that was the real struggle we had, and ultimately we did open on May 6th in 2012. Mm.
But in your career as a psychologist, as a teacher, as a trainer, what is the best thing that you like about it, and what is the most difficult thing, or what is it that you hate about your job or your career?
Truly speaking, I liked all these wings of my duty. That is, as a teacher, I love teaching, and then we enjoy really teaching. I don't really see the distance between my students and myself. And then, no, I try to teach the best, and then refer all this, and then they're really happy with my teaching and all that. And basically I cannot be strict. I am not very strict in this, but because I feel that anything, we should give them the scope of lenience or freedom, so that the best comes in it. So I enjoyed all my aspects, that is, as a teacher, as a clinician, as a professional, and all. The problem is administration. I did not like administration. Being the head of the organization, there'll be a lot of pressures from all sides. We have to deal them amicably. And definitely in an organization, there will be some people, who would like to pull down, like crab culture. They cannot come up, so they would like to pull the others down. So those were the difficult times that I had with some of the officials. Anyway, life is to go on, so we have to do the best and do the things that is more dear to us, and we have to be honest in that. So this I thought, I have to proceed like this, and then it was success. I mean, there's a lot of happiness. And if you talk about, in the area which I'm not happy, is like about the parents. Our parents, Indian parents, expect too much, a little bit. How many times we tell them that they should be a little bit constructive, use their time in a more constructive way, or think about some economic, say, development and all that. They have certain set of lethargy in them. They are not too great entrepreneurs. They like to have always a push button, always push them, then only they'll do well. So what I always feel, I hope, I pray is that they should be little more energetic and little more, what is it, having expansive thought, and then think big about economic development. If they think of economic development a little higher than what they are now, it will help them their wards to gear up their mind to that level. That is my only urge and only sincere prayer, that my parents should always be more energetic, and then take care of children, be constructive, read some more information, get some information from the library, from the net, and a little bit. I want them to be proactive. Then it will be nice, it will be wonderful. Whatever I'm striving, it will be nice, because we have developed all the department up till economic development, that is training in their vocational training, like they do like that, printing on the mugs, printing on the t-shirts, all they are able to do independently. And they are able to do a lot of tailoring activities, and then printing activities, then screen printing, then horticulture, and then cup making. All this, what is suitable, economically viable, and then suits to this particular culture, we have been giving them the training. And we're also giving them computer training for the DTP, and also if they have capacity to learn certain languages, computer languages, and all that, which will be helpful for them, and all that. So this is what I always think, that uh, well, these are the challenges as well as the successes in my life. And then I have also trained many mothers, economically empowered them in tailoring, printing, phenol making, soap making, garment stitching, and all this. So, okay, this is what I have achieved in my life.
So, when you started your career, you had a certain mission. Do you think you have reached there?
So I think I have gone ahead of the target which I set initially when I was just entering as a clinical psychologist. So to look back, I have really empowered persons with intellectual disabilities to the maximum level that they could achieve. Like after getting training in various vocational units, we have placed them in the open employment, in bakery, in say pharmaceutical company, in say supermarket and malls, snack preparing units, and all that. We have placed them, so that I'm very comfortable with. I'm very happy about it. And here with the during my last phase of my career, again we did place persons with multiple disabilities, that is a person with hearing, deaf blind, having problems in vision as well as a hearing, two vital sense organs who have impairment in these two. We were able to place them as assistant teachers, and we have placed them in garment industry, and we have trained their parents and economic empowerment, and they are now doing their own entrepreneur small scale industries, like in their homes preparing soap, phenol, and say various other garments and all. And today they've been doing a lot of masks during the COVID times and all that. So to hear about it, it's very very nice, that they are all doing well, and parents are still in touch with me, and students also, when they some many successful things, they come and share with me and all that. So it's a nice to see them back, that they are growing well, and then ultimately economically empowered.
Wonderful work, wonderful work. So, what do you think are the characteristics that has helped you achieve all that you have achieved in your life?
One is I am stubborn. I'm really, what's the adamant in my career, that when I have to do this, I have to do it. And then I'm sincere, honest. And then I think, the best thing is, like, the Lord decides for me how long I should be in a particular place and all that. And everywhere I've been doing well. So the way you interact, see, you should be a down to earth person. Mainly because I'm a down to earth person, I can even if I'm a director, I don't mind putting a chair into the other room and all that. If anybody, if there is some guests and I couldn't find anybody, I don't mind going to the next room and pulling a chair for that particular guest. So I'm that type, I can work to that level also. I mean, down to earth, as well as hold the position of a director. Where I have to be very stern, I can be stern. I can really versatile. I'm a versatile type in this particular element. And then I am hardworking. I will see that. Um, do my things very well in time, and then often my colleagues have said that I'm a go-getter. Anything I will which is necessary, I will see that it comes to the institution or to the parent or to the client and all. And then I always want to see a smile on the parents of the disabled as well as children with disability. That was my goal, that I have to bring a smile on their face, be happy. And then, so I planned a lot of activities for them, like outings, and then afterwards taking them, and then having get togethers for the parents and all that, at least once in 3 months, so that they go take a break, enjoy, and come back rejuvenated. Basically I deal with all of them. I'm approachable person. It's not that I have a you know um, head weight. I'm not a head weight person. I'm just accessible to any person, and even to the security guard I'll be accessible. They can easily, with it, without any fear, they can march in into my room, into my chamber. So that particular facility I have given it. And then I don't like loose talks. I don't like talking beyond something or about something at all. I'll cut them straight and say, let's change the topic. So that's where I deal and all that, because we should not give room to all these things. What mission we have to attain that. So create a good environment, good ambience in the office, and give freedom, and then to enhance the creativity and innovations, and then stick to the rules and regulations and be happy with your package.
Great words, ma'am. Thank you. And any challenge you faced as a woman?
Yes. What happens, being a woman, sometimes in some meetings will be, most of the people on the dais will be men. No, I'll be the only women on the desk. Sometimes I would feel very say uncomfortable that I cannot even discuss anything, or crack a joke, or talk about anything, or on the lighter vein, So that I would feel very much. And then sometimes, in crowded place and all, it will be very difficult for us to move around. I know. We don't like, to be very very, the proximity shouldn't be so close and all, in crowded places. That is one problem which I always faced. But of course I have to protect myself, and then you understand between the lines. And then yeah, that is the only thing that I had. And other than that, there were no challenges at all. I had umpteen freedom for my personal life, as well as for my personal functions and all that. I had a lot of time and all that. So I think I balanced myself, my career, and my family life equally well, and all that. The reason for this is, like, during my initial stages of my work, when I working in NGO, my children completed their education and all. When I was in a real administrative post or higher post and all that, I was free. I mean, they all got married, and they're taking care of their homes, and me and my husband only. So there was not much of family commitment, so I could dedicate my time to my profession and all that. And my family, my husband particularly, was very supportive. Even sometimes, it would be 8:39, 9 o'clock in the night by the time I would return home, so he would come and pick me up and all. So such sort of support was always there. That is why I was able to achieve so much of success. Things went on very well for me, Malti. Always God was there in every step. God was there with me. I can always tell. It went off wonderful. Life was really wonderful. I need not think back and say I did. I mean, I suffered here or suffered there, and didn't think that it was a suffering. That is what.
Amazing, amazing. I mean, added to the satisfaction that you derive out of your career when the family is supporting, especially when the husband supports, it's like it's like an added bonus, and you have that bonus with you. How did you perceive success? What is your definition of success? Is it achieving your goal? Is it achieving your mission? Is it the authority that came with their position? Is it the package, the money that comes with it? How do you define success?
Success is where you feel one is where you feel happiness or enjoyment after doing all these years of work, huh? And you've been appreciated at all levels. And then this my work has been an example for so many people, and then it was being told by the higher officials to follow me as an example and all that. This is gives us a honor or say. At no point the children suffer or their studies suffer or they were had to stop or something. There was nothing like that. For them also the education was continuous, and then immediately they got the jobs and they had established their families very well, and everything fell, I can say, at right time everywhere. So that I think is also success. Neither career, nor family, nor job was at stake at any time. So that I think is one perspective of success, and the other one is like teaching. We earned as a very good as a teacher, good trainer, and then parents were happy with us and all that, students were happy with us, the other team members of different departments were happy with us, barring one or two. So these all adds on to the various aspects of success. So I don't have to sit and think that okay, here I failed or here I was not successful and all that. So uh, these and all, I don't have anything in my mind now. Now sitting back and retrospectively, I felt that everything went off very well. There can be a small, minor, one or two mistakes and all that, which is easily rectifiable. That's not at all a problem. This is what I feel success is. At the end, no, we should feel happy. Yes, after marching out of this particular tenure of our work, how do we place ourselves? Yes, we have been secure financially. We've been happy with our achievements, and then when persons say that she's been retired from this particular organization, it gives us a honor to me and all that. And even sometimes when they call us for some meeting or some get-togethers and all that, we've been introduced as a former director of this institution, the founding director of this. And today in the foundation stone, there is my name inscribed on that. And then for years to come, maybe my grandchildren, their children, and all, they can always see their great great grandparents' name is always installed here, and they can then think about how much she has developed that building and all that. So it all gives thinking futuristically as well as retrospectively. It has been very very good experience, and I think this all is God's design for me.
It's a pleasure listening to you and pleasure knowing you. I'm sure your great, great, great grandchildren are going to be really proud of the work that you have done. And thank you so much for talking to me today.
Thank you, Malati, for giving me this opportunity. It was real nice talking to you and going back through all the years, a journey. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, ma'am. Wonderful talking to you. Teaching and research have been my passion, which I enjoy, says Nirada, who has indeed worked hard to bring an insight, clarity, and focus to her field of clinical psychology, especially for the children with multiple disabilities. With scientific reasoning, critical thinking, active listening, and communication, her impressive work had gone on to fetch her the President's Award not once but twice in the years 2011 and 2012. Thank you, Ms. Nirada, for the excellent contributions to the society. Salutations to such inspirers in our lives. Thank you so much for listening in. I hope you liked this conversation and found it inspiring. If you think this could help transform minds, please share this with friends, family, associates, anyone. Do you have a question that you want me to ask our next guest? Do write to me at empress@bhogya.online, EMPRESS at BHOGYA.online. I look forward to receiving your comments at bhogya.online slash the impressive empress. While there, you can also get to know about more of such leaders and how you can lead like the impressive empress.